What's good, everybody? Jesse here from Jess-Inspired. Alright, today is a continuation of the Sunnyside landing page challenge, the part 2 actually, and we'll be designing everything in the main section from transform your brand down right here to graphics design photography. And just in case you haven't seen the first video, I strongly recommend that you go check it out. There should be a card right now popping up in this video to redirect you right there so that you can flow better with this. And if you're new here, also make sure to subscribe, okay, for more web dev content like this. And then if you like what we do, please go ahead and give us a like, okay. And without further ado, let's just jump right into the business of today. All right, so I'm in VS Code right now, and before I begin to design the main section, I just want to give you a breakdown of the structure of what we'll be doing today. So right now you see that I have 3 rows in total. So this transform your brand and this image is 1 row, and this image right here and the standout to the right audience is another row, and then graphics design to photography is another row. So my main section is going to have 3 children. Okay, so each of these 3 children will have 2 children in them, which you see right here. So this is 1 child, this is another child, and okay, this row is another child. So each of these children right here will have 2 children in them, which is transform your brand in this case, and then this image right here. So and so on and so forth. So just in case you're having a hard time understanding what I'm saying, I'm going to share right now in my HTML. So I'm going to start with writing a main element, and I'm going to give it a class of a main grid, just like that. And I want this main grid to have 3 children, okay, which is dots, main, and each of these 3 children should have a class of main rows, just like that. So if I do this, everything looks good for now. Now, having done this, the first child which we have right here, I'm going to give it 2 classes, okay. So the first class is going to have this transform your brand, should be in an article element, and then this image, okay. So this first row and the second row are somewhat similar, only that the position of the article and the image are interchanged in both of them respectively. All right, so the only one that seems a little bit different is this last row. Okay, so I'm going to come right here, and I'm going to give this guy a class of I'm going to give it first a class of article. Okay, so I'm going to write an article element, and I'll give it a class of articles. Okay, articles. All right, just like that. And then what's next is that I'm going to come right here, and then I have an image, which is this yellow background egg image. All right, so I'm just going to write img right like that, and I'm going to give it a class of grid images. All right, so you could basically give this thing any name you choose. All right, so I'm just choosing to give it grid images, and then I'm going to write the sources in img desktop and image transform. That's the name of the image, just like that. All right, so that's done. Now I'm going to write the text inside my article. So the first text you see right here is transform your brand. We have this other text, and then we have this a tag, which this text decoration over it. All right, so this, I'll make this a link, because in reality when you click here, this should redirect you to another page. Okay, so the first one, the transform your brand, I will give it a h2. All right, and I'll give it a class of article headers. All right, article headers, just like that. I'm going to write transform your brand, just like that. Transform your brand. The next one, I'm going to give it a class that is this text right here. All right, so I'm going to give it a class of articles text, just like that. And I'm just going to copy this. All right, so I'm going to copy this, and I'm going to paste it right here, just like that. Okay. All right, so that's done. Next, I'm going to write this learn more right here, and then this text decoration. Now, this is not your regular text decoration. Okay, it's not your regular text decoration. There's some little styling with CSS you need to implement to achieve something like this. Okay, and I'm going to show you how to do it in a jiffy. But for now, I'm just going to give it the class of write an element and anchor tag, because it's a link, and I'm going to give it a class of learn more link. All right, since it's a dummy tag, I'm just going to give it an hash. All right, so I'm going to give it hash right here because it's not going anywhere. And then I'm going to write in here, I'm going to write a span, and the span I'm going to write learn more, just like that. Learn more, and it's going to have 2 children. This first child is this span of learn more, and then the second child will be a div, and this div will have a class of learn more decoration. Okay, so that decoration right there under it to have a class of learn more decoration, and I'm going to give it a second class of yellow, just like this, a second class of yellow. All right, so let me zoom in so you can see it better. All right, so a second class of yellow here, just like this. So I hope that makes sense. Now, why am I doing this? I'm doing this because we have another text decoration for this. All right, so they have basically the same structure but different colors. Okay, so I'm using this one with an additional class of yellow to distinguish it from this one that has this color of source red, and you're going to see it's working in a jiffy. But for now, I'm going to give it a second class of yellow. Okay, so seeing that this row looks somewhat like this row, I'm just gonna I'm not going to type this again so it doesn't seem redundant for you. I'm going to pause my video and then I'll just type it in. All right, and then I'll get back to you. All right, so I've been able to do that, so I just copied it, and since it's the same format, and please don't bother about the fact that the both positions are interchanged. I'm going to show you how to achieve that using CSS. Okay, so I want my HTML to be consistent. All right, so all I did was that in this second one, the second row, I gave my learn more decoration a second class of soft red. Okay, so that I can distinguish it from the one that has the background color of yellow. All right, so I've been able to conclude the HTML for these two parts. Next, I'm going to write the HTML for this. All right, so there are a bunch of ways to do this. Either you could make it a background image, but in my case, I'm going to make it, you know, an image. All right, an img tag in my HTML. Okay, so I'm just going to come right here. I'm going to give this class, it's going to have two classes. All right, sorry, two children. All right, like I told you about, and I'm going to call them, give them a class of exhibition. Now I'm calling it exhibition because right here you see what it's saying. It's saying great design makes you memorable. So it's sort of you're advertising something, so you're exhibiting something. So I'm just calling it exhibition. Okay, so you could choose to give it whatever name you like. All right, so mine, I'm going to call it exhibition, and I'm going to give the first one, the first child would be an image. It's going to have a class of grid images. All right, and it's going to have a source of img, desktop, image, photography. Okay, photography, just right there. So that's the photography. All right, which is this. All right, so it shouldn't be image photography, it should be photography is the second one right here, so it should be image graphic design. Okay, so let's not get it twisted. Image graphic design, where are you? Okay, just like that. So this is good. Okay, next is going to have another class of to sort of mark this guy up right here. Okay, so it's going to have a second child, and the second child is going to have a class of exhibition. Exhibition, I hope I spelled that well. Exhibition article, just like that. Okay, so I'm going to do that, and then to distinguish it from this other guy, because they have the same basic structure, but you realize that this guy has this green color and this guy has a blue color. So just to sort of distinguish it, I'm going to add an extra class here, right here, to my HTML, and I'm going to call it graphic design article. Okay, to distinguish it from photography article. Okay, so that's good. So I haven't done that. I'm just going to put the text, so I'm going to give it a h3, and the h3 I'm going to give it a class of headers. Okay, I'm going to give it a class of headers, just like that, and in it I'm going to write graphic design. Let's see, graphic design, graphic, let me see, okay, capital letter, sentence case, design. Okay, so having done that, the next thing I want to do is that I want to have this this text right here, this, which you see here, this text. I want to put it in my HTML. So I'm going to come right here. I'm going to give it a class of articles text, just like that, text. And I'm going to copy this guy. So you could type it, but this text they are given to us from frontend-mentor.io, and I'm going to link it in the description below, just in case you want to have access to these content. All right, so I'm just going to copy that and paste it right here, just like that. So everything looks good for now. So all right, so because No way. So because this guy and this guy look somewhat alike, I'm not going to spend my time writing that again. I'm just going to copy this guy right here. I'm going to copy this one, this exhibition right here, and then I'll paste it and then just change the values to photography and this other text, okay, and then give the image a source of photography image so that I can have what I have right here. Okay, so I'm not going to waste your time doing that. All right. All right, so quickly let me show you what I did. I just copied the same class which you see here, exhibition. I copied everything, then I changed the values like I told you. So right now, instead of having image graphics design, I have image photography, and then I have right here, instead of having graphic design article, I have photography article. All right, so I also have this the text. I had it changed, okay, so we increase your credibility. Instead of great design makes you memorable. So everything looks good for now. So if I launch this with live server, you're going to see that I have my HTML showing up right here. Okay, so it looks somewhat not necessarily styled. Okay, I think I have an issue. I'm having two of these images. So I'm going to work on that right now. Okay, so I've been able to spot the issue. I did not I have this image transform right here, and then I also have image transform right here. So I'm going to change this image so I don't have two of this yellow background egg. Okay, so I'm just going to change it right now. So the correct image should have the name of image stand out. Okay, just like that. So if I save it, it should change, okay, to this image, okay, which is consistent with this one right here. Okay, so I think to make my life a lot more easier, let me just cut this. All right, let me cut it, Control X, just like that. All right, and I'll put it at the top. Okay, just share inputs at the top. So if I do that, I should have something like this. So this is what I have. I have my transform your brand. I have my text right here. Transform your brand is text, and then I have this image. I have this other text right here. I have this image. I have its text under. I have this other image. I have its text under. So everything looks good for now. So it's time to style this with CSS. Okay, so let's go right into our styles at CSS. All right, so I'm in my CSS now. Before I begin to style this, I just want to show you something that I think will make our life a lot more easier. Now, if you realize that all the headers you see right here have the same font family, okay, so we could classify them so that we'll be able to change it just using by altering the value or the property of just one selector. And in case that doesn't make sense, I'm just going to show you what I mean. So I have right here in my headers, article headers right here, I could give this a second class of headers, okay, just like that. And then on this other guy right here, the header, I could also give this h2 another class of headers, just like that. Okay, so if I do that, let me also come right here and give, okay, this guy already has a class of headers and this guy has a class of headers. Now if I come to my CSS, all right, and I just try headers, for example, I could just set the font family, all right, to var header fonts, just like that. So if I do this, by just doing that, I can be able to alter the font family of all the headers, okay, by just changing the value, the property of one selector. All right, so I've been able to do that right now, so that seems pretty good for me. So let's just jump right into the main styling for today. So I'm going to come right here, I'm going to write main section styling, main section style. Okay, so you call it whatever you like anyway. So I'm just going to start with the main grid. I'm just going to call it, give it a display of grid. Okay, so nothing much is going to happen for now, but I'm going to show you the implication of what we just did in a jiffy. Then I'm going to have my grid images right here. So my grid images would have I want them to have a width of, I want them to occupy the whole container. Okay, so I want them to have a width of 100% and the height of 100% too. So if I do that, I'm going to have my images expand right here. So it looks a little bit robust anyways, but don't worry, we're going to touch it right now. Next, I want to style my main rows. Okay, my main rows. Okay, let me check the selector, the name of the selector. Right, so I called it main row here. Okay, so but I wanted to have a class of main rows because I think that's easier to understand since they are many. Okay, so I'm just going to change it right now. All right, so I've been able to change the name of this class to main rows. Okay, so that's better for me to remember, or easier rather for me to remember. So I want them to also have a display of grid, just like that. And I want my main rows to have a grid template columns of repeats to 50%. Okay, so basically what this does is that it's going to make this my main row right here. I told you that the main row has two children in it, which is this transform your brand and then this image. All right, so what it's going to do is that it's going to separate, it's going to divide the spaces into two equal parts, 50% of the parents. Okay, so transform your brand is going to take 50% of this viewport, and then the image is going to take 50% of the viewport, and so on and so forth. So if I save this, you should see this layout begin to show up. All right, which looks somewhat like the original. Okay, all right, so I hope you enjoyed that. So it's beginning to take shape. So having done that, I'm going to set a background color of var floral white, because I don't think it's actually pure white. It has this floral white. Okay, a little bit off white. Okay, so that's good. So I've been able to do that. Now I defined these values in the first video, okay, right here in the var section. So like I told you, if you're watching this and you've not watched the first video, I strongly recommend that you stop right now and you go right there and then you watch that, and when you're done, come back and continue with this. Okay, so having done that, the next thing I want to style are my articles. Okay, so my articles comprises of the header, the articles header, and the articles text. So I want to give it a display of flex. Okay, before I begin to do that, I just want to center it here, just like this. I want to make sure that it is centered just like this right here. So, and then I have control over the row gaps. Okay, so there are a bunch of ways to do this, but I like to work with my flex. Okay, so I'm just going to give it a display of flex. I'm going to give it a flex direction of column because I want them to have a column direction. Next, I'm going to give it a row gap of 2 vmax. All right, just to create some even spaces around them. I'm going to give it a justify content of center. I'm going to give it a margin. Okay, before I do this, let me just show you what I'm doing right now. So because I gave it the flex direction of column, means that the main axis is now column. And if I set the justify content, since justify content works in the main axis, you realize that it is centered vertically. All right, so but it's not centered horizontally. All right, so there are a bunch of ways to do this in CSS. I could, all right, so one way to do it, which I really like, is by using my margins. Okay, so you can do a lot with your margins. So I'm just going to give you a margin of 0, and I'm going to give it a right. This 0 means the top and the bottom. It's going to have a value of 0 at the top and the bottom, and I'm going to give it a right and left of auto. So now basically what this means is that it's going to distribute the space right here, this extra space, to the right and to the left. So it's going to occupy every space. Maybe that doesn't make sense. Let me show you what I mean. So if I just click save, all right, so I click save and nothing actually happened. And there's a reason for this, because right now there's no extra space. All right, there's no extra space right here in this articles text. Okay, so that's why in my articles it's totally occupying this whole the whole width of the container, so you can't distribute any spaces. But if I give it a width, for example, of 60%, now if I give it a width of 60%, it means that there will be 40% extra space to share. So I hope that makes sense. If I give it a width of 60% and I save this, realize that right now I'm going to see my text, my article centered right here, because I have 40% space. Since I gave it the width of 60%, now I have 40% space to distribute around here to sort of center this guy. So everything looks good for now. So having done this, the next thing I want to do is I want to come right here to my articles header. So I want to change, instead of having this black right here, I want to change the color. So let me just write articles header. Okay, I think that's the name I gave you right here. It's the articles header. Let me check it out. Okay, so I gave it article headers. All right, so that's what I'll use. Okay, just in case you did not see that, that's it right here, article headers. Okay, so I'll be using that. So I'll just come right here to my CSS. I'm going to give this guy, change this to headers. because there are two of them. Okay, and I'm gonna give it the color of very I think it's very, sorry about that, very dark. Color of very dark, desaturated blue. All right, so if I save this, I should see right here. Okay, so all right, if I check it out right now, you see that it's working because of the selector I used. I had an extra S which I wasn't supposed to have anyways. So everything looks good for now, so let's proceed. Okay, so next I'll be writing my articles text. Okay, so I want my articles text, I want it to look somewhat like this guy right here, and then I also want my learn more to look somewhat like this. Okay, and like this. All right, so I'll be starting it before I reload it in live server, just so that it helps save our time. So I'm just going to write here, I'm going to give this guy a line height. All right, because this guy seems to join together compared to this. There are spaces between this text. All right, so I'm going to give it a line height of 1.3 rem. I'm going to give it a font family of body fonts, var body fonts. Okay, I'm going to give it a font width of something like 510. Okay, having done that, I'm going to give it a color of dark, that's that, var dark grayish blue. All right, I'm going to give it a font size of 0.9 rem. So once I set these properties and values, you'll see what will happen is that my text looks somewhat like this guy right here. And just that my learn more buttons are, and they still look a little bit different, so I'm going to style them right now. So next I'm going to write my learn more link, or learn more links. All right, since there are two, learn more links. So okay, first things first, I'm going to change the color. I'll change the color to var very dark to saturated blue, very dark to saturated blue. All right, so I also change the font family to header fonts. Okay, var header fonts. So I've been able to do that. Next, I want to set my text transform to uppercase. Then having done that, I want to set my font size to 0.9 rem. Set my font size to 0.9 rem. I want to set, okay, so this looks good for now. So if I save this, okay, that didn't work. Okay, it isn't working because of the same class selector. Okay, before I proceed, then let me just share what I believe is the best practice, just that I've not been, doing it myself. So a lot of times if I style in my CSS, I come right here to my HTML, and instead of writing it there, I copy it. Okay, so I think that way it can help save you from these extra errors and bugs I'm having. So watch out for that. So if I change this right here in my HTML, I should see it being implemented right here. So I have my learn more buttons looking pretty good. All right, so but okay, let me proceed. So having done that, I want to style my learn more decoration. Okay, I'm gonna write learn more. Okay, so let me just do that right now so I don't make that mistake anymore. So I'm just gonna copy you right now. Copy. Okay, so you see that as I'm copying this guy, it's also reflecting here. All right, so I can be able to cross-check my code before I come right here to my CSS. So that's a best practice, I believe. So learn more decoration, and I'm gonna give this guy a height. Now learn more decoration has to do with this guy right here, this underline which you see right here. So I'm just gonna come right here. I'll give it a height, so I wanted to have some height of something like 0.6 rem. 0.6 rem. I'm gonna give it a width of 110%. All right, because I want it. If you look at the original has this extra. Let me zoom in a little so you see it better. Look at the original. This is the text. All right, so and then you have this underline somewhat a little bit wider or longer than the learn more text. All right, so it's a little bit longer than it. So I'm just going to give it an extra a width of 110%, so it will have like 5% shared on both sides. So I hope that makes sense. So when I center it, it should have 5% shared on both sides. So that's why I'm doing that. Okay, so I'm just going to give it a width of 110%, and For now, before I do any other thing, let me work with the first one. So I have an extra class of yellow, isn't it? It has a background color of let me say var learn more yellow, just like that. So if I save this, I should see this my yellow, which you're seeing right here. So it looks a little bit different, not a little bit different, much more different from what we have here originally, isn't it? All right, so it looks much more different. So the first issue, because I gave this a height of 6 rem, so it would be better if I made it a height of 0.6 rem, but you see that it's too long. All right, so it's much more longer than what we have right here, so I can rectify this. But if I come to my articles text and I give this guy a width, for example, of something like max content. Okay, so if I do that, sorry about that. If I come to my, all right, so I'm having to debug my code, so I'm having some issues. If I come to my learn more links, okay, all right, so my learn more links, which are actually these guys. All right, my learn more links is this learn more and then this decoration. So if by default I don't declare any width, it's just going to occupy the entire width of the parent. Okay, but right now I want it to occupy the width of the largest element inside it, of the largest child inside it. And in order to do that, I will set the width to max content. So once I set it to max content right here, it's going to take the width of the largest child. All right, so the largest child is this 110%, which you see right here. So the width is no longer extending from here to this to the parent. All right, now it's taking the width of the largest child inside it. I hope that makes sense. So I've been able to do that. Now you realize that let me zoom in a little so you see it better. Okay, underline has this square kind of borders. All right, so this one has this rounded border. So I'm going to show you how to do that by just simply changing the border radius property. And then another thing is that just take note of these few things I want to show you is that this guy somewhat overlaps with the text. Okay, this guy, while this one has some spaces between the text and the text decoration, this guy overlaps with the text. So I'm going to show you how to do that right now. So I'm going to come right here to my CSS. So having set the width of max content, now another thing I want to show you is that these guys are the center. The text is at the center of this text decoration. Meanwhile, this text is at the start of the text decoration. So there are three things we want to touch right now. We want to first of all make this text to be at the center. We want to give this on this text decoration a border radius, a rounded border radius, and I want to move this text decoration upwards such that it overlaps with this learn more text right here. So quickly, in order to achieve that, I'm just going to come right here to my learn more decoration, and I'm going to give it a transform. And it translates y. It translates y. So it translates y. I'm going to move it upwards. So to move it upwards, I'm just going to put minus or negative 0.45 rem. So if I do that, it should move upwards. So having done that, I'm going to give it a border radius of 0.5 rem, isn't it? So I'm going to give it a border radius of 0.5 rem. Then in order to center it, there are a bunch of ways to actually center this. One way I find pretty interesting is by coming right here to my learn more links, and then if I give it a display of grid, I can now give it a justify items of center. So if I do this, it's going to center it. So I'm going to achieve those three things which I told you about. So I should expect to see right now I have my learn more button centered, and then I have my underline overlapping with the text, and then I have my rounded border. All right, so the next thing I want to achieve is that, so having done this, you realize that I only have this my learn more decoration appearing just for this transform your brand. If I come right here to standard to the right audience, and then I look at this learn more, I can't see any design, even though I specified it right here in my CSS. Okay, so in order to do that, I'm just going to come right here. Since I specified only for yellow, I'll come right here, and then I'm also going to write for soft red. All right, so the additional class of soft red which I did, and just in case you're having issues as to where I got them from, remember I gave this learn more links an additional class of soft red to distinguish it from the yellow one right here. Okay, so that's it right there. So I'm going to come back right here, and I'm going to give this class of soft red, I'm going to give it a background color of our I think I have one of soft red. Okay, so once I do that, I should expect it to appear right here just like this. So everything looks good. Okay, or let me call it learn more soft red. I think that's the right color. Learn more var background color var learn more soft red. Okay, so this is much more lighter. Okay, so everything looks good for now. Now the next thing I want to do is that I want to implement the hover effects. Okay, so there are a bunch of ways to do this, but one way to do is that I'm just going to come right here to write yellow. Okay, so this yellow class, I want it to be that when I hover over it, a color should show up. So I'm going to change the background color when I hover over it. So I'm going to set the background color of HSLA 51. So let me just pause it and then type it so I don't waste your time. Okay. All right. So instead of typing it, I just realized that in the colors I specified that were given to us from frontend mentor.io, I just have a simple yellow. Okay, so instead of writing that long HSL color when I hover over it, I could just use the default, the yellow, which I specified in my variable. So if I do that, I'm just going to write var yellow. So if I do this and I save this, so you realize that if I hover over it, that yellow would appear just like that because I've already specified it as a variable. All right, so this soft red also, I could also change the background color on hover. Give it the background color of var soft red. So if I hover over it, I should have that soft red. But right now I don't have any transition effect on any of them, so I'm just going to set that right now. I'm going to set a transition of 0.2 seconds ease in and out, and I'm just going to copy this right now and then I paste it right here. So just like that. So it looks good. So I'm also going to paste it right here in my learn more decoration. Okay, so I have this very smooth effect. Okay, so if I hover over it right now, you see that I have this smooth effect over it, and then if I hover over this, I have this little smooth effect. Okay, so having done this, now let me zoom this a little and see. All right, so I have this little this smooth effect, this transition effect. So everything is beginning to look good, isn't it? Now what's next is that, all right, so everything looks good. It's just that if you realize the height of this my element seems pretty large, because if you compare it with this guy, which I have right here, and then the original from frontend mentor.io, isn't this large? So this one is pretty large. So I want to set a clamp function to control my height for me. So like I said, there are usually a bunch of ways to achieve these things, but one way I'm going to do is I'm going to set my clamp. I'm going to set a clamp on it. So I'm going to set a clamp on two things. I'm going to set a clamp on my grid images right now, which you see, and then I'm also going to set a clamp on my articles. Okay, so I'm going to give them the same value. So I'm just going to write here dot articles just like that, and then I'm going to write the clamp of and also for grid images. Okay, so I'm going to give them a clamp of let me see, 18 rem 18 rem height, rather height of 18 rem clamp 18 rem 35 vmax, 35 vmax, and 27 rem. So I came up with these values by practice. Okay, so they're not like standard values. I came up with them by practice. So you could actually choose what works for you, but once I saved, I realized that I have my height like this. All right, so it looks somewhat like this. Now let me just zoom out so you see it better. So it looks somewhat like this. All right, so everything looks good for now. Okay, so we've been able to achieve this section to an extent, to a great extent, for larger viewports. Let me also come right here and work on this other exhibition section. So I'm just going to come right here to my CSS. Okay, and I'm going to write exhibition. Now what do I want to do? I want to make I want to put this text on this image. That's what I want to do right now. I want to put this text on this image, and I want this image to occupy the whole height and the whole width of the parent, and I want this text to be on this image, and I want it to be centered. All right, so just in case that doesn't make sense, I'm going to show you what I mean. So I'm going to come right here because each of them have the parent of exhibition. Okay, let me come right down here. They have a parent of exhibition. Exhibition is a parent to both the image and the text, the article. All right, so I'm going to come here. I'm going to give this the parents exhibition, just like this. And let me make sure that that's the name that was here, exhibition. Okay, let me copy it. I told you it's good to always copy it. All right, so that you will not make any mistakes in your spelling. So exhibition, good. So having done that, I'm going to give it the position of relative, and I'll show you why I'm doing this in a jiffy. I'm going to give it the position of relative. I'm going to give it a display of flex. I'm going to give it a justify content of center. Now, having done this, this guy has a position of relative. Now, my exhibition article, I want this guy to move relative. I want it to be absolute, but I want it to be absolute relative to the parent, which is exhibition. All right, so I'm going to be using the position property to achieve this. So I'm just going to write exhibition article. Let me make sure that's what I use right here. Exhibition article. Okay, so that's what I use right here. So exhibition article, and I want it to have a position of absolutes. Now, mind you, I've already set my grid images. All right, so have a width of 100% and a height of 100% initially here. All right, so here are my grid images right here to have, and each of these guys also have a class of grid images. Okay, so they should be occupying the entire height and the entire width of the container. All right, so and then I also set a clamp function on them so that they don't exceed this value. Okay, and then their parent, the height of the parent is totally dependent on the height which I specified. Okay, I hope that makes sense. So having said that, I'm going to come right here. Having given this guy the position of absolute, I'm going to set it to have a top of 0. I'm going to have 50%, a width of let me say 50%, and a width or a clamp of a height of 100%. All right, so right now if I do this, look at what's happening. I have my text inside this inside my parents or at the exhibition, and then it has a top of 0. That's why it's at the extreme. Okay, and then in this my parent, I also have what I have a justify content of center. That's why it is centered right here. All right, in the main axis, which is the x direction in this context. So I hope that makes sense. All right, so let me just continue what I'm doing. So I'm going to give this guy now realize that exhibition article is a parent to let me just show you what I'm doing. Exhibition article is a parent to headers and articles text. Okay, so I want to also create spaces between this and center it vertically. All right, so in order to do that, I could set this exhibition article to have a display of flex and a flex direction of column. So if I do that right now, I can easily set row gap. So I can set a row gap of 0.5 rem, which you see right there. And then I can also set the text align of center, because if you see this guy is centered right here, it's not at the extreme and it's not at the starts, which you have like right here. Right here the text is at the starts of the container, but you see right here it has the text align of center. So I could also set the text align right here of center, just like that. Okay, so that looks good. So and then okay, let me just save this for now so you follow what I'm doing. All right, so so if I do this right now, you realize that I have my text align of center. So it's no more at the start of this container. Right now it has a text align of center, so it looks good for now. Now what's next is that I have to center this guy, or not necessarily center it. I have to put it at the bottom, just like this. Okay, so this guy's at the bottom with just a little padding right here. So I'm going to achieve that right now. All right, so there are a variety of things I could do, but right now I realize that our text is at the top, which we obviously want it to be at the bottom. So I could remove this guy. Okay, and then since I already have a flex direction right here of column, and I have display of flex, I could just introduce a justify content, and then this time I'm going to set my justify content to flex end. And because I already set my flex direction to column, instead of prior to this time, if my flex direction was set to row, or if I did not specify my flex direction property, flex end should take it to the end of my of my width right here at the extreme right. Okay, but since I already set the flex direction to have a flex direction of column, my flex end will take it to the bottom. So if I do that, I save this right here, I have my text at the bottom. But it's not yet perfect because I should still have some spaces at the bottom. So right now it's at the extreme bottom. So one thing I can do, I can set a padding bottom. So just to create some extra spaces at the bottom of this my article, of my exhibition article. So I could give this, for example, 1 rem. So if I do that right now, if I scroll down, you see that I have some spaces, okay, right here. All right, so if I save this, okay, that didn't work. All right, so I'm going to have to do, let me put it in the article's text. Okay, so I'm going to put the padding in the article's text, which happens to be this one. So I'll put the padding at the bottom right here so that I can have some extra spaces. All right, so I'm having to do this so I could see my thought pattern and how I debug my code. So I'm just going to hide padding bottom, let me put like 1 rem right here. So if I do this, I should have that space which you see right here. So it looks good for now. So having done this, the next thing I want to do is that I want to change the colors of this text. Okay, so I want to change the colors. Okay, so I'm gonna come right here. Next, I'd come to graphics design article. So graphic design article. I hope that's the right spelling. Let me just confirm it from here. All right, so exhibition article, graphics design article. Okay, so which is what we have right here. So let me just copy this. All right, so I want to get this article's text right here. So I'm just going to copy this guy, graphics design article. All right, so I'm going to paste it right here. And I want dot articles text. Okay, so I want the articles text that is a child of graphics design article, and I want it to have a color of var graphics design color. All right, so I want to do the same thing for the next one. So the next one is photography article. So I'm just going to copy it from here, photography article. So copy, Control C, and then Control V. I'm just going to come right here, Control V. Okay, so I want to have a color of var what's it called, photography color. So if I do this, I should expect these colors right here to change. So save. Okay, so you have my headers right now. So this guy has this color, this blue color. Let me compare it with this guy right here. So all right, so everything looks good, or does it? All right, so I have this, my graphic design, and then I have this other guy right here, and then my photography. I also have this color. So let me compare it with what I have right here. Okay, so I think I'm still having some basic issues. So this one is working, graphics design is working, it looks like this, but here my photography looks good, or does it? Okay, no, it doesn't. It doesn't. So I'm having issues right here. So I'm going to debug my code and find out why this guy isn't appearing like this, and I'm suspecting some specificity issues. Okay, all right, so it wasn't actually a specificity issue. Is because I did not declare it to be articles text. Okay, basically, you know, it was technically, it was anyway. So but I declared it to have an articles text right here. That's this. I was directing it, I was targeting this articles text. It should have worked. So if I save this right now, it should work. So it's working perfectly fine. So I have my graphic design, everything is good right here. It's also good. So I think this looks good for now. Let me also check the responsiveness, because it has to be fully responsive, isn't it? So I'm going to put it on responsive mode right now and make sure that at smaller viewports I have a single column for all these guys. Okay, so I'm on responsive mode right now, and if I resize my screen, it looks good. But if I keep on resizing to some points, at some point it begins to look a little bit messy. All right, so it begins to look a little bit messy, and okay, let me keep resizing it. It looks messy. Okay, so I'm going to use this breakpoint which I use right here of 639 px. Okay, so I'm going to use this at this same breakpoint of 639 px right here. I want my layout to change. Okay, so I'm just going to have a new, I'm going to write right here responsive main section, just like that. So I want it to be that at this breakpoint, I want my main rows to have a grid template columns of 100%. So by doing this, I'm specifying that I just want one column, and this column should have a width of 100%. So once I do this, right, what was going to happen? It's going to change. All right, so if I resize my screen, my width, all right, so to width lower than 639 px, you realize that I have this single column row, and for now it looks good, but let me compare it with this original one and then show you a few differences. Okay, so if I also set this on responsive mode, which you see right here, on responsive mode, after the hero section is this this image before the text, the image before the text, and realize that this learn more button right here, it's at the middle, it's not at the side, it's not at the start of my flex container. But right here, when I resize my screen, obviously you're seeing this guy doesn't have the text align of center like this guy has right here. So he has the text align of center. In fact, this other guy is at the middle, while this my own is at the start of the flex container. So, and then realize that my image, which you see right here, this is at the bottom, whereas it should be at the top. This one is good. So the only place I'm having issues is right here. So I'm going to rectify that now quickly. So I'm just going to come right here to my main rows, not to my main rows, right, to my responsive main section, and I'm going to give my articles. So I want to make them align at the center. I'm going to give them a text align of center. Okay, and then I want them to have a width of 80%. All right, so they will center right there, and then they'll have some spaces, you know, at the left and at the right. So once I do that, you should see some changes. All right, so it looks good for now, just that my learn more buttons also need to be touched. So I'm just going to come right here to my learn more link, learn more links, just like that, and I'm going to give the margin a margin, okay, of 0 and then auto. So once I do this, it will center it. It should center it. All right, so it's centered. Okay, so everything looks good now. The other thing, the next thing I need to do is that I need to push this image up right here. So in order to do that, I'm just going to come right here to my grid images, and I'm going to implement a new property, which just in case you're not conversant with this, please go ahead and drop a comment for me in the comment section below. And then like I always do, if there's any parts you don't understand about what we are trying to do right now, just go ahead and drop your comments in the comment section below. Okay, so if I alter the position of the grid images, all right, so by setting a grid row, I want it to have to start at a grid row of line 1 and then end at line 2. So I'm sort of altering it right now. So once I do that, I realize what's happening. I have my image on top, I have my text right here, and then I have my image on top, I have my text right here. So this one also looks good. So everything looks good. So it's fully responsive right now. So if I resize my screen, you see that I still have this consistency. Okay, right here. Another thing, you realize that at smaller viewports, you might begin to see that what's it called, my articles right now begins to overflow to this, what's it called, to this images in it, and then it seems to mess up my layout. So I could just maybe control this a little with some clamp function. Okay, I could try to rectify this with clamp function. All right, so let me just come right here. Let me come right here to where I set a width of 50% for my exhibition article. So I could just put a clamp function to make sure that I regulate it. Okay, so instead of having a width of 50%, I could have a clamp of 15 rem, 28 vmax, and 20 rem, just like that. So once I save this, you see that it will sort of, you see, it's no more having that overflow on my image. So no matter how I resize it, it still maintains the orientation I would like it to maintain. Okay, so it's not overflowing, and also even if I resize it vertically, it still remains exactly how I want it to be. All right, so my design is looking all responsive for now. Let me check it out. So like I said, there are 1,001 ways to achieve this. So this is how I think, you know, this is I can achieve this. So if you have a better way to go to go about this, please make sure you drop your comments in the comment section below. And if you're new here, like I always say, make sure you subscribe, make sure to like, make sure to share this video. All right, and until we see you next time, remember, web dev isn't hard after all.